स्वयं रूपाय कदा मह्यं ददान्ति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे हरे
ప్లీజ్ అమ్మా కొంచెం ఇవ్వవా.
Mataji? Mataji, yeah, Mataji, I remembered we have done chapter number 25, Mataji. We have to do 26.
Okay.
I know, I noted it down in the notepad, Mataji. It got open now, so I'll just check.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to do this one, Mataji.
Start now.
Vaishnavi Mataji, you want to start?
No, you start.
Okay then. Chapter 26, Simulation for Ecstatic Love. Some things that give impetus or stimulation to ecstatic love of Krishna are his transcendental qualities, his uncommon activities, his smiling features, his apparel and garlands, his flute, his buffalo horn, his leg welts, his conch shells, his footprints, his places of pastime, such as Vrindavan, his favorite plant Tulsi, his devotees, and the periodical occasions for remembering him. One such occasion for remembrance is Ekadashi, which comes twice in a month on the 11th day of moon, both waning and waxing. On that day, all devotees remain fasting throughout the night and continuously chant the glories of Lord. Krishna's transcendental qualities, his uncommon activities, and his smile. As far as Krishna's transcendental qualities are concerned, they can be divided into three groups: qualities pertaining to his transcendental body, qualities pertaining to his transcendental speech, and qualities pertaining to his transcendental mind. Krishna's age, his transcendental bodily features, his beauty, and his mildness are qualities pertaining to his body. There is no difference between Krishna and his body, and therefore the transcendental features pertaining to his body are the same as Krishna himself. But because these qualities stimulate the devotee's ecstatic love, they have been analyzed as separate causes of that love. To be attracted by the qualities of Krishna means to be attracted by Krishna himself, because there's no real distinction between Krishna and his qualities. Krishna's name is also Krishna. Krishna's fame is also Krishna. Krishna's entourage is also Krishna. Krishna and everything related to Krishna that gives simulation to love of Krishna are all Krishna. But for our understandings, these items may be considered separately. Krishna is the reservoir of all transcendental pleasure. Therefore, the impetuses to love of Krishna, although seemingly different, are not actually distinct from Krishna himself. In the technical Sanskrit terms, such qualities as Krishna's name and fame are accepted both as reservoirs of and as simulations for love of Krishna. Krishna's age is considered in three periods: his appearance to the end of his fifth year is called Kaumara. From the beginning of sixth year up to the end of the 10th year is called Pogandha, and from the 11th to the end of 15th year is called Kaishora.
This we have completed.
Okay, Mataji, I'll go to the next one then. Have you done this, Mataji?
Symptoms of this also we have done.
Okay. This one?
Go down. Yes, this also we have done. Think just a minute. Uh,
This we have to do, Mataji, I think.
This one is not done.
Okay.
oh,
Vaibhav Prabhuji, you can start this.
just go to
Expression of love for Krishna. There are some bodily symptoms that express overwhelming static love. They are counted at 23rd as follow: disappointment, lamentation, humility, guilty, fatigue, intoxication, pride, doubt, apprehension, intense emotion, madness, forgetfulness, disease, confusion, death, laziness, inertness, bashfulness, concealment, remembrance, and argumentiveness, anxiety, thoughtfulness, endurance, happiness, eagerness, violence, haughtiness, envy, impudence, dizziness, sleepiness, and alienation, disappointment. When one is forced to act in a way that is forbidden or to refrain from acting in a way that is proper, he becomes regretful and he thinks himself dishonored. At that time, there is a sense of disappointment. In this kind of disappointment, one becomes full of anxiety, shed tears, changes bodily color, feels humility, and breathes heavily. When Krishna is punishing the Kaliya serpent, appear to have drowned himself in the poisonous water of the Yamuna, Nand Maharaj addressed Yashoda Devi, thus, my dear wife, Krishna has gone deep into the water, so there is no longer any need to maintain our bodies, which are so full of sinful activities. Let us also enter into the poisonous water of the Yamuna and compassionate for the sinful activities of our lives. This is an instance of severe shock. Within the devotee becomes greatly disappointment. When Krishna felt Vrindavan, Subala, his intimated friend, decided to leave also. While leaving, Subala was contemplating that without Krishna, there was no longer any pleasure to be found in Vrindavan. The analogy is given that the bees go away from a flower as no honey. Subala left Vrindavan when he found that there was no longer any relishable transcendental pleasure there. In Dhyan King Kamudi Srimati Radharani addressed one of her friend in this manner: My dear friend, if I cannot hear of the glorious activities of Krishna, it's a better of me to become deaf. And because I am now unable to see him, it will be good for me to go to be a blind woman. It is another instance of disappointment due to separation from Krishna. There is a statement in the Harivamsa wherein Satyabhama, one of the queens of Krishna, one of the queen of Krishna in Dwaraka, tell her husband, My dear Krishna, since I had Narada glorifying Rukmani before you, I can understand that there is no need of any talking about myself. This is an instance of disappointment caused by envy. Rukmani and Satyabhama were co-wives, and because Krishna was a husband of both, so there naturally was some feminine envy between them. So when the Satyabhama heard the glories of Rukmani, she was envious of her and thus became disappointed. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, verse 47 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a statement, My dear Krishna, I cannot say that there is only other people who are implicated in material existence because I too am much entangled with the bodily concept of life. I'm always too anxious about my family, home, wife, wealth, land, and kingdom. And because I have been so maddened by this material atmosphere, I'm thinking now that my life has simply been spoiled. This statement is an instance of disappointment caused by lamentation. According to Bhartamuni, this disappointment is inauspicious, but there are other learned scholars who have accepted such disappointment as being as a mode of neutrality and as a being as a preservative of ecstatic love. Lamentation. When one is unsuccessful in achieving his desired goal of life, when one finds no fulfillment in this present occupation, when one finds himself in reverse condition, and when one feels guilt, at such a time one is said to be in a state of lamentation. In this condition of lamentation, one becomes questioning, thoughtful, tearful, regretful, and heavy breathing. His bodily color changes and his mouth becomes dry. One aged devotee of Krishna addressed him in his way, My dear Krishna, O King of the demon, my body is now invalid due to old age. I cannot speak very fluently. My voice is clattering. My mind is not strong, and I'm often attacked by forgetfulness. But my dear Lord, you are just like a moonlight, and my only real regret is that for what of any taste of your pleasant shining I did not advance myself in Krishna consciousness. This statement is an instance of lamentation due to one being unable to achieving his desired goal. One devotee said, "This night I was dreaming of collecting various flowers from the garden, and I was thinking of making a garland to offer to Krishna. But I am so unfortunate that all the sudden of my dream was over, and I could not achieve my desired goal." This statement is an instance of lamentation resulting from non-fulfillment of one's duty. When Nand Maharaj saw the foster son Krishna embarrassed in the sacrificial arena of Kamsa, he said, "How unfortunate I am that I did not keep my son bolted within a room. Unfortunately, I brought him to Mathura, and now I see that he is embarrassed by his giant elephant named Kuba, Kubalabaya. It is as though the moonlight ellipsed by the shadow of the earth. This is an instance of lamentation caused by reverse conditioning. The 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a statement by Brahma. My dear Lord, just see my impudence. You are the unlimited, the original personality of Godhead, the super soul, and you rule over the most precious energies. But see my impudence. I wanted to supersede you, but my own personal power. I was very baffled by with this tiny power of mine. Just as a simple spark from the fire cannot do any harm to the fire, so my bewildering potency was completely unsuccessful in thwarting your superior illusory power. Therefore, I find myself to be the most insignificant and think of myself as the most useful person. This statement by Brahma is an instance of limitation caused by committing any offense. Humility, a sense of weakness caused by distrust, fear, or offensiveness, is called humility. In such a humble condition, one becomes talkative, small in heart, dirty in mind, full of anxiety, and inactive. In the 10th canto, 51st chapter, verse 57 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a following statement by King Mukunda: "My dear Lord, because of my bad deeds in the past, I am everlasting aggrieved. I am always suffering from my desires, but still my senses are never satisfied with material enjoyments. Somehow or other, by your grace, I am now in a peaceful condition because I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, which are always free from all lamentation, fear, and death. O Supreme Protector, O Supreme Soul, O Supreme Controller, kindly give me all protection. I am so such embarrassed." This statement by Mukunda is an instance of humility resulting from a severely miserable condition of material existence. When Uttara was attacked by the Brahmasastra Ashtadhama, she became afraid of losing her child Maharaj Parikshit, who was still within the womb. She immediately surrendered to Krishna and said, "My dear Lord, kindly save my child. I don't mind, and if I myself must be killed by the Brahmasatra of Pratama." This is the instant of humility caused by fear. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, "O infallible one, I am born in the mode of passion, and therefore I have been falsely proud of being the creator of this material world. My false pride was just like a dense darkness. In the darkness, I had become blind. And in my blindness, I was considering myself a competitor to you, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But my dear Lord, even though I'm accepted as the creator of the universe, I'm eternally your servant. Therefore, kindly always be compassionate towards and excuse me in that way." This statement by Brahma is another instance of humility resulting from committing any offense. Sometimes there's a humility due to shyness. For example, when Krishna stole all the garments from the gopis when they were bathing in the river, all of them begged Krishna not to commit this instance upon them. The gopis addressed him thus: "Dear Krishna, we know that you are the son of Nand Maharaj and that you are the most beloved of all Vrindavan, and you are very much loved by us also. But why are you giving us in trouble? Kindly return our garments. Just see how we are trembling from the severe cold." This humility was due to her shyness from being naked before Krishna. Guilt. When a Krishna blames himself for committing an inappropriate action, case failing is called guilt. One day, Srimati Radharani was churning yogurt for Krishna. At that time, the jeweled bangles on her hand were circling around and she was chanting the holy name of Krishna. All of a sudden, she thought, "I'm chanting the holy name of Krishna and my superior, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and may hear me." But by this thought, Radharani becomes over anxious. This is an instance of feeling guilty because of devotion to Krishna. One day, the beautiful light Srimati Radharani entered into the forest to collect some flowers to prepare a garland for Krishna. While collecting the flowers, she became unafraid. She became afraid that someone might see her, and she felt of some fatigue and weakness. This is an instance of guilty feeling caused by labor for Krishna. This is a statement in Rasa. Sudhakara that after passing the night with Krishna, Radharani became so weak that she was unable to get up from bed. When Krishna took her hand to help her, Radharani felt guilty about having passed the night with him. Fatigue. When one feels fatigue after walking a long distance, after dancing and a sexual activity, in this kind of fatigue, there is dizziness, perspiration, inactivity of the limb, yawning, and a very heavy breathing.
Hare Krishna. I think somebody else can read.
Mataji, may I?
Yes.
One feels fatigue and after walking a long distance, after dancing and after sexual activity. In this kind of fatigue, there is a dizziness, perspiration, inactivity of the limbs, yawning, and heavy breathing. One day, Yashoda was chasing Krishna in the yard after he had offended her. After a while, Yashoda became very fatigued and therefore she was perspiring, and a bunch hair became loosened. This is an instance of becoming fatigued because of working too much. Sometimes all of the cowherd friends of Krishna along with Balarama dance together in some ceremony. At these times, the garlands on the necks would move and the boys would begin to perspire. Their whole bodies became wet from the ecstatic dancing. This is an instance of fatigue caused by dancing. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 33rd chapter, verse 20, it is said that after enjoying love affairs with Krishna by dancing, embracing, and kissing, the gopis would sometimes become very tired and Krishna, out of his causeless mercy and compassion, would smear their faces with his lotus hand. This is an example of fatigue caused by laboring in the rasa dance. Intoxication. When one becomes arrogant with false prestige due to drinking intoxicants or being too lustful, the voice becomes very faulty, the eyes become swollen, and there are symptoms of redness on the body. This is a statement in the Lalita Madhava. The Lord Baladeva, intoxicated from drinking excessive quantities of honey, once began to address the ants, "Oh, you kings of the ants, why are you hiding yourselves in these holes?" At the same time, he also addressed the King of Heavens, "Oh, King Indra, your plaything of Sakshi, why are you laughing? I am now prepared to smash the whole universe, and I know that Krishna will not be angry with me." Then he addressed Krishna, "My dear Krishna, tell me immediately why the whole world is trembling and why the moon has become elongated. And oh you members of the Yadu dynasty, why are you laughing at me? Please give me back my liquors of honey from the Kadamba flowers." Sri Rupa Goswami prays that Lord Balarama will be pleased with all of us while he is thus talking just like an intoxicated person. Baladeva or Balarama is the older brother of Krishna. He is an expansion of the Godhead himself, and he therefore to be considered an incarnation of God as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Once again, Mataji. Okay, Mataji, where was I?
Taji, you have to start from in this state of intoxication.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, thank you. In this state of intoxication, Balarama felt tired and laid down for rest. Generally, those who are exalted personalities lie down when they feel intoxicated, whereas those who are mediocre laugh and sing during intoxication. Those who are lowly use vulgar language and sometimes cry. Such intoxication is manifested according to different ages and mentality. Srila Rupa Goswami does not describe further in this direction because there is no necessity for such a discussion. There is another description of the symptom of intoxication in the person of Sri Radharani after she saw Krishna. Sometimes she was walking hither and thither, sometimes she was laughing, sometimes she was covering her face, sometimes she was talking without any meaning, and sometimes she was praying to her associate gopis. Sorry, seeing these symptoms in Radharani, the gopis began to talk among themselves. Just see how Radharani has become intoxicated simply by seeing Krishna before her. This is an instance of ecstatic love in intoxication. The expression of ecstatic love in pride may result of excessive wealth, exquisite beauty, a first class residence, or the attainment of one's ideal goal. One is also considered proud when he does not care about the neglect of others. Mangala Thakura said, "My dear Krishna, you are leaving me forcibly getting out of my clutches. But I shall be impressed by your strength only when you go forcefully from the core of my heart." This is an instance of feeling pride in ecstatic love for Krishna. Once during the Rasa dance, when Radharani left the arena, Krishna went back to seek her out. One of uh, one of the dear friends of Radharani addressed Krishna thus, "My dear Krishna, you have been very much obliging in serving the form of our Shri Radharani, and now you have left all the other gopis to search for her. Please allow me to inquire how you want her to treat you." This is an instance of feeling pride on account of exquisite beauty. Sometimes Radharani felt pride within herself and said, "Although the cowherd boys prepare nice flower garlands for Krishna, when I present my garlands to him, he becomes struck with wonder and immediately accepts it and puts it on his heart." Similarly, in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 33rd of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Balarama says, "My dear Madhusudana, persons who are pure of your lordship actually feel your ecstatic friendship. As such, they are never vanquished by enemies. They know that they are always protected by you, so they can
Rajita Mataji, you're on mute.
over the heads of their enemies without without any care. So, in other words, one who has taken complete shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord is always proud of being able to conquer all enemies. One weaver at Mathura addressed Krishna in this way: "My dear King of Vrindavana, I have become proud of your Mataji, what's happening? I have become proud of your causeless mercy upon me, that I don't even count upon the mercy of the Lord of Vaikuntha, which is sought after by many great sages in deep meditation." In other words, although the yogis and great sages sit in meditation upon Lord Vishnu, who is residing in Vaikuntha, a devotee of Krishna is so proud that he does not consider such meditation to be valuable. This feeling of pride is due to one's having achieved the highest goal of life. Doubt. After Lord Brahma had stolen all the calves, cows and cowherd voice from Krishna. He was trying to go away, but all of a sudden he became doubtful because about his stealing affairs and began to watch on all sides with his 8 eyes. Lord Brahma has 4 heads and he has 8 eyes. This is an instance of ecstatic love and doubt caused by stealing. Similarly, just to please Krishna, Akura stole the Shamantaka money, a stone that can produce unlimited quantities of gold, but later on he repented his stealing. There is another instance of ecstatic love for Krishna in doubt caused by stealing. When the king of heaven Indra was causing torrents of rain to fall on the land of Raja, he was advised to surrender himself at the lotus feet of Krishna. At that time, Indra's face became very dark because of doubt. Apprehension. When a person becomes disturbed in his heart by seeing lightning in the sky, by seeing a ferocious animal, or by hearing a tumultuous sound, his state of mind is called apprehensive. In such a state of apprehension, one tries to take shelter of something that provides safety. There may be standing out of the hairs on his body, trembling of the body, and sometimes the committing of mistakes, and sometimes the body may become stunned. In the Padyavali, there is the following statement, my dear Krishna, my dear friend, Krishna's residence in a demonic circle at Mathura under the supremacy of the king of demons Kamsa is causing me much worry. There is one instance of apprehending such danger to Krishna in ecstatic love for him. When Varsura appeared in Vrindavana as a bull, all the gopis became greatly affected with fear. Being perturbed in that way, they began to embrace the tamala trees. This is an instance of fear caused by a ferocious animal and of the search for shelter while remembering Krishna in ecstatic love. Upon hearing the jackals crying in the forest of Vrindavana, and the Yashoda babe sometimes became very careful about keeping Krishna under her vigilance, fearing that Krishna might be attacked by them. This is an instance of ecstatic love for Krishna in fear caused by a tumultuous sound. This kind of fear is little different from being actually afraid. When one is afraid of something, he can still think of past and future. But when there is this kind of ecstatic apprehension, there is no scope for such thinking.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Somebody else can read.
May I, Mataji?
Yeah, anyone?
May I continue, Mataji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Intense emotion. Emotion is caused by something very dear, by something very detestable, by fire, by strong wind, by strong rainfall, by some natural disturbance, by the sight of a big elephant, or by the sight of an enemy. When there is emotion caused by seeing something very dear, one can speak very swiftly and use kind words. When there is emotion caused by seeing something detestable, one cries very loudly. When there is emotion caused by seeing fire, one tries to flee. There may also be trembling of the body, closing of the eyes, and tears in the eyes. When one becomes emotional on account of strong wind, one tries to run very swiftly and rub his eyes. When one is emotional because of rainfall, one takes an umbrella and there is tension in his body. Where there is emotion due to certain disturbance, one's face becomes discolored. One becomes struck with wonder and there is trembling of the body. If there is emotion from seeing an elephant, one may jump and show various signs of fear, and sometimes one may keep looking behind him. When there is emotion due to the presence of an enemy, one looks for a fatal weapon and tries to escape. When Krishna returned from the forest of Vrindavana, Mother Yashoda was so emotional from seeing her son that milk began to flow from her breasts. This is an instance of emotion caused by seeing a dear object. In the 10th canto, 23rd chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami informs King Parikshit, "My dear king, the wives of the Brahmanas were usually very much attached to the glorification of Krishna, and they were always anxious to get an opportunity to see him. Because of this, when they heard that Krishna was nearby, they became very anxious to see him and immediately left their homes. This is an instance of emotional activity caused by the presence of someone very dear. When Putana, the demonic witch, was struck down and killed by Krishna, Mother Yashoda was struck with wonder and began to cry emotionally. Oh, what's this? What's this? When she saw that her dear baby Krishna was playing on the chest of the dead demonic woman, Mother Yashoda, at a loss what to do, began to walk this way and that. This is an instant of being emotional on account of seeing something casty. When Krishna uprooted the two Arjuna trees and Yashoda heard the sound of trees crashing down, she became overcome with emotion and simply started upward, being too bewildered to know what else to do. This is an instance of being emotional from hearing a tumultuous sound. When there was a forest fire in Vrindavana, all the coward men assembled together and desperately appealed to Krishna for protection. This is an instant of emotion caused by fire. The whirlwind demon known as Trinavrata once carried Krishna off from the ground and blew him around along with some very big trees. At that time, Mother Yashoda could not see her son, and she was so disturbed that she began to walk this way and that. This is an instance of emotion caused by severe wind. In the 10th canto, 25th chapter, verse 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of Indras causing severe torrents of rain at Vrindavana. All the cows and cowherd boys became so afflicted by the wind and cold that they all gathered together to take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. This is an instance of emotion caused by severe rainfall. There were severe torrents of hail when Krishna was staying in the forest of Vrindavana, and the elderly persons bade him, "Krishna, don't you move now. Even persons who are strangers and older than you cannot move, and you are just a little boy, you please stay still." This is an instance of emotion caused by heavy hailing. When Krishna was chastising Kalya and the poisonous water of the Yamuna, Mother Yashoda began to speak emotionally. "Oh, see how the earth appears to be on trembling. There appears to be an earth tremor, and in the sky tears are flying here and there. My dear son has entered into the poisonous water of Yamuna. What shall I do now?" This is an instance of emotion resulting from a natural disturbance. In the arena of Kamsa, when Krishna was attacked by big elephants, all of the ladies present began to address him in this way: "My dear boy, please leave this place immediately. Please leave this place immediately. Don't you see the big elephants coming to attack you? Your innocent gazing upon them is causing us too much perturbation." Krishna then told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, don't be perturbed by the appearance of the elephants and horses. They are so forcibly coming and raising dust, causing blindness to these lotus-eyed women. Even the crazy demon come before me, my arms will still be adequate for victory. Please don't be perturbed." In the Lalita Madhava, our friend tells Mother Yashoda how wonderful is that when the Sankachuda demon was vast and strong as a great hill, attacked your Cupid like beautiful son. There was no one present in Vrindavan to help, and yet the demon was killed by your little son. It appears to be due to the result of severe penances and austerities in your past lives that your son was saved in this way. In the same Lalita Madhava, there was an account of Krishna kidnapping Rukmini at her royal marriage ceremony. At that time, all of the princes began to converse among themselves, saying, "We have our elephants, horses, chariots, bows, arrows, and swords. So why should we be afraid of Krishna? Let us attack him. He's nothing but a lusty coward boy. He cannot take away the princess in this way. Let us all attack him." This is an instance of emotion caused by presence of enemies. Srila Rupa Goswami is trying to prove by all the above examples that in relationship with Krishna, there is no question of impersonalism. All personal activities are there in relationship with Krishna. Madness. Srila Bilvamrita Thakura prays in this book as follows: "Let Srimati Radharani purify the whole world, because she has surrendered herself completely unto Krishna. Out of her ecstatic love for him, she sometimes acted just like an adult person and attempted to churn yogurt, although there was no yogurt in the pot. And seeing this, Krishna became so enchanted by Radharani and he began to milk a bull instead of a cow. There are some of the instances of insanity or madness in the connection with the love affairs of Radha and Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that when Krishna entered the poisonous waters of the Yamuna, Srimati Yasoda Devi went insane. Instead of searching for curative herbs, she began to speak to the trees, and if they were snake chanters, with folded hands, she began to bow down the trees, asking them, "What is the medical herb that can shake Krishna's dying from the poisonous water?" This is an instance of insanity caused by some great danger. How a devotee can be in a state of insanity because the ecstatic love is described in the 10th canto, 30th chapter, verse 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein the gopis were searching of Krishna in the forests of Vrindavana. The gopis were loudly singing the glories of Krishna and wandering from one forest to another in search of him. They knew that Krishna is not localized but all pervading. He is the sky, he is the water, he is the air, he is the super soul in everyone's heart. Thus, the gopis began to inquire from all kinds of recent plans about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the instance of ecstatic madness on the part of devotees. Similarly, there are symptoms of diseases caused by ecstatic love. This condition is credited by learned scholars as being Mahabhava. This highly elevated condition is also called Divyomata or transcendental madness, forgetfulness. When Krishna was absent from Vrindavana and was staying in Mathura, Srimati Radharani sent news to him and his mother, the queen of Raja, and was feeling such separation from him, and there was a foam coming from her mouth, like the foam on the shore of the ocean, and sometimes she was raising her arms like the waves of the ocean, and because of her intense feelings for separation, she was rolling on the ground and creating a tumultuous roaring sound, and sometimes she was remained completely silent like a calm sea. These symptoms of separation from Krishna is called apasmara or forgetfulness. One completely forgets his position when he manifests these symptoms in ecstatic love. Another message was one sent to Krishna informing him that he had killed Kamsa. One of Kamsa's demon friends had gone insane. This demon was foaming on the mouth, waving his arms and rolling on the ground. This demonic demonstration is in relationship with Krishna in a ghastly humor. This mellow or flavor is one of the indirect relationships with Krishna. The first five kinds of relationship are called direct, and the other seven are called indirect. Some way or other, the demon must have had some relationship with Krishna because these symptoms developed when he heard that Krishna had already killed Kamsa. Sri Rupa Goswami remarks that there is also transcendental excellence in this kind of symptoms. Disease. In
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Krishna. Somebody else can read.
Mataji, shall I?
Yes, you can read, ma.
Disease. When Krishna was absent from Vrindavana and was staying at Madura, some of his friends informed him, "Dear Krishna, because of their separation from you, the inhabitants of Braja are so afflicted that they appear to be diseased. Their bodies are feverish and they cannot move properly. They are simply lying down on the ground and breathing heavily." In the 10th canto, 12th chapter, verse 44 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaja Parikshit asked about Lord Ananta, and upon hearing this question, Sukadeva Goswami began to show symptoms of collapsing. Yet he checked himself and answered King Parikshit's question in a mild voice. This collapsing condition is described as a feverish state resulting from ecstatic pleasure. There is another statement in Srimad Bhagavatam telling of the damsels of Braja meeting Krishna at the sacred place of Kurukshetra many years after their childhood pastimes. When they met in that sacred place, all the gopis became stunned by the occurrence of a solar eclipse. Their breathing, blinking of the eyes, and all similar activities stopped, and they stood before Krishna just like statues. This is another instance of a disease condition resulting from exuberant transcendental pleasure. Shall I continue, Mataji? Further features of ecstatic love for Krishna. Confusion. There is following statement in the Hamsa Duta. One day when Srimati Radharani was feeling much affliction because of her separation from Krishna, she went to the bank of the Yamuna with some of her friends. There, Radharani saw a cottage wherein she and Krishna had experienced many loving pleasures, and by remembering those incidents, she immediately became overcome with dizziness. This dizziness was very prominently visible. This is an instance of confusion caused by separation. Similarly, there is a statement describing confusion caused by fearfulness. These symptoms were exhibited by Arjuna when he saw Krishna's universal form on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. His confusion was so strong that his bow and arrows fell from his hand and he could not perceive anything clearly. Death. Once the Bakasura demon assumed the shape of a very big duck and opened his mouth in order to swallow Krishna and all the cowherd boys. When Krishna was entering into the demon's mouth, Balrama and other cowherd boys almost fainted and appeared as though they had no life. Even if devotees are illusioned by some ghastly scene or by an accidental occurrence, they never forget Krishna. Even in the greatest danger, they can remember Krishna. This is the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Even at the time of death, when all the functions of the body become dislocated, the devotee can remember Krishna in his innermost consciousness. And this saves him from falling down into material existence. In this way, Krishna consciousness immediately takes one from the material platform to the spiritual platform. In this connection, there is a statement about persons who died at Madura. These persons had a slight breathing acceleration. Their eyes were wide open, the colors of their bodies were changed, and they began to utter the holy names of Krishna. In this condition, they gave up their material bodies. These symptoms are prior manifestation of death. Laziness. When, because of self satisfaction or dislike of excessive labor, a person does not perform his duty in spite of having the energy, he is called lazy. This laziness is also manifested in ecstatic love for Krishna. For example, when some Brahmanas were requested by Nanda Maharaj to circumambulate Govardhana hill, they told him that they were more interested in offering benedictions than in circumambulating Govardhana hill. This is an instance of laziness caused by self-satisfaction. Once, when Krishna, along with his cowherd boyfriends, was having a mock battle, Subala showed the symptoms of fatigue. Krishna immediately told his other friends, Subala is feeling too fatigued from mock fighting with me. So please do not disturb him any more by inviting him to fight. This is an instance of laziness caused by dislike of excessive labor. Inertness. In the 10th canto, 21st chapter, verse 13 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an appreciation by the gopis of the inertia of the cows in Vrindavana. The gopis saw that the cows were hearing the sweet sounds vibrated by Krishna's flute and were appearing to be drinking the nectar of these transcendental sounds. The calves were stunned and they forgot to drink the milk from the milk bags. Their eyes seemed to be embracing Krishna and there were tears in their eyes. This is an instance of inertia resulting from hearing the transcendental vibration of Krishna's flute. When Lakshmana became disturbed upon hearing words against Krishna, he remained inert and did not move her eyelids. This is another example of inertia caused by hearing. In the 10th canto, 71st chapter, verse 39 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an account of King Yudhishthira's bewilderment after his bringing Krishna into his home with the greatest respect. King Yudhishthira was very much bewildered because of his transcendental pleasure at having Krishna present in his house. In fact, while receiving Krishna, King Yudhishthira forgot himself. This is an instance of inertia resulting from the ecstasy of seeing Krishna. There's another instance in the 10th canto, 39th chapter, verse 36 of Srimad Bhagavatam. When Krishna was going to Madura, all of the gopis were standing behind Krishna, and upon seeing the chariot leaving, they stood there stunned and did not move. They remained like that until the flag of chariot and the dust thrown by its wheel became invisible. Krishna was once addressed by his friends thus, "My dear Mukunda, Krishna, due to their being separated from you, the cowherd boys are standing just like neglected deities in the house of a professional Brahmana. There is a class of professional Brahmanas who take to deity worship as a means of earning their livelihood. Brahmanas in this class are not very interested in the deity. They are interested mainly in the money they can earn as holy men. So the deities worshipped by such professional Brahmanas are not properly decorated. Their dress is not changed and their bodies are not clean. They look dirty and are not very attractive. They look dirty and are not very attractive. Actually, deity worship should be done very carefully. The dress should be changed daily, and as far as possible, there should be ornaments. Everything should be so clean that the deity is attractive to all visitors. Here, the example is given of the deities in the house of a professional Brahmana, because such deities are not at all attractive. The friends of Krishna, in the absence of Krishna, were appearing like neglected deities. Bashfulness. When Radharani, Mataji, can you scroll? When
Hare Krishna. Somebody else can read now.
okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
May I read?
Yes.
Bashfulness. When Radharani was first introduced to Krishna, she felt very bashful. One of her friends addressed her in this way: "My dear friend, you have already sold yourself and all your beauty to Govinda. Now you should not be bashful. Please look upon him cheerfully. One who has sold an elephant to another person should not make a miserly quarrel about selling the trident that controls the elephant. This kind of bashfulness is due to a new introduction in the ecstatic love with Krishna." The heavenly king Indra, upon being defeated in his fight with Krishna for possession of the Parajita flower, became very bashful because of his defeat. He was standing before Krishna, bowing down his head. When Krishna said, "All right, Indra, you can take this Parijata flower, otherwise you will not be able to show your face before your wife Sachi Devi." Indra's bashfulness was due to defeat. In another instance, Krishna began to praise Uddhava for his various high qualifications. Upon being praised by Krishna, Uddhava also bowed down his head bashfully. In the Harivamsha, Satyabhama, feeling slighted by Rukmini's high position, said, "My dear Krishna, the Raivakta mountain is always full of class, but when I have become persona non grata to you, what is the use of my observing them? This is an instance of bashfulness resulting from being defeated. Concealment. There is a symptom of ecstatic love known as concealment or trying to hide one's real mental condition by externally showing another attitude. In this state of mind, one tries to hide his mind by looking away in different directions, by unnecessarily trying for something that is impossible, or by using the words that cover one's real thoughts. According to Acharyas, expert in the study of psychological activities, these attempts at hiding one's real affections are another part of ecstatic feelings for Krishna. In the 10th canto, 32nd chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami states, My dear king, the gopis were always beautiful and decorated with confidential smiles and alluring garments. In their moments intended to give impetus to lusty feelings, they would sometimes press Krishna's hands on their laps, and sometimes they would keep his lotus feet on their breasts. After doing this, they would talk with Krishna as if they were very angry with him. There is another instance in the first canto, 11th chapter, verse 32 of Srimad Bhagavatam. After entering Dwaraka, Krishna was received in different ways by different members of his family. Upon seeing their husband from a distance, the queens of Dwaraka immediately embraced him within their minds and slowly glanced over him. As Krishna came nearer, they pushed their sons forward to embrace him. Others were trying out of shyness not to shed tears, but they still could not keep the tears from gliding down. This is an instance of concealment caused by shyness. On another occasion, when Srimati Radharani thought that Krishna was involved with another woman, she addressed her friend in this manner. My dear friend, as soon as I think of Krishna, the cowherd boy, attached to some other woman, I become stricken with fear and the hairs on my body stand up. I must be very careful that Krishna not see me as at such times. This is an instance of concealment caused by shyness and diplomatic behavior. It has been stated, although Srimati Radharani developed a deep loving affection for Krishna, she hid her attitude in the core of her heart so that others could not detect her actual condition. This is an instance of concealment caused by gentleness. Once, when Krishna and his cowherd friends were enjoying friendly conversation, Krishna began to address his associates in casual language. At that time, Krishna's servant Patri was also enjoying the conversation. But then, remembering his position of servitude, Patri bowed down before his master and with great respect and control stifled his smiling. This subdued smiling is an instance of concealment caused by respectful attitude. Remembrance. There are many symptoms of ecstatic love caused by remembering Krishna. For example, one friend of Krishna informed him, My dear Mukunda, just after observing a bluish cloud in the sky, the lotus-eyed Radharani immediately began to remember you, and simply by observing the cloud, she became lusty for your association. This is an instance of remembering Krishna in ecstatic love because of seeing something resembling him. Krishna's bodily complexion is very similar to the bluish hue of the cloud, so simply by observing a bluish cloud, Srimati Radharani remembered him. One devotee said that even when he has not very attentive, he would sometimes, seemingly out of madness, remember the lotus feet of Krishna within his heart. This is an instance of remembrance resulting from constant practice. In other words, devotees who are constantly thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna, even if they are momentarily inattentive, will see the figure of Lord Krishna appearing within their hearts. Argumentativeness. Madhumangala was an intimate friend of Krishna coming from the Brahmana community. Krishna's friends were mostly cowherd boys belonging to the Vaishya community, but there were others who belonged to the Brahmana community. Actually, in Vrindavana, the Vaishya community and the Brahmana community are considered prominent. This Madhumangala one day addressed Krishna in this fashion: My dear friend, I can see that you are not aware of the peacock feathers that are falling on the ground, and at the same time, you are unmindful of the flower garlands that are offered to you. I think I can guess the reason for your absent mindedness when I see your two eyes flying over to the eyes of Srimati Radharani, just like the black drones flying to the lotus flowers. This is an instance of argumentative suggestion in ecstatic love. Once, while Krishna was out walking, one of the associates of Radharani told her, My dear friend, do you think that this walking personality is a tamala tree? If he is a tamala tree, then how is it possible for him to walk and be so beautiful? Then this personality might be a cloud. But if he is a cloud, then where is the beautiful moon within? Under the circumstances, I think it may be granted that this person is the same enchanting personality of. Okay, Mataji. Under the circumstances, I think it may be granted that this person is the same enchanting personality of Godhead by whose flute vibration the three worlds are captivated. He must be the same Mukunda who is standing before Govardhana hill. This is another instance of an argumentative presentation of ecstatic love. The Tamala tree is always described as being the same color as Krishna. Anxiety. In the 10th canto, 29th chapter, verse 29 of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna asked all the gopis to go back to their homes, they did not like it. Because of their grief at this, they were sighing heavily, and their beautiful faces appeared to be drying up. In this condition, they requested remained without making a sound. They began to draw lines on the ground with their toes, and with their tears they washed the black ointment from their eyes onto their breasts, which were covered with red kumkuma powder. This is an instance of anxiety in ecstatic love. One of the friends of Krishna once informed him, "My dear killer of the demon Mura, your kind and gentle mother is very anxious because you have not returned home, and with great difficulty she has passed the evening constantly sitting on the balcony of your home. It is certainly astonishing how you could forget your mother while you are off somewhere engaged in your playful activities. This is another instance of deep anxiety in ecstatic love. When Mother Yashoda was very anxiously waiting for Krishna to return from Mathura, Maharaja Nanda gave her this solace. My dear Yashoda, please don't be worried. Please dry your beautiful lotus like face. There is no need for you to breathe so hotly. I will go immediately with Akrura to the palace of the Kamsa and get your son back for you. Here is an instance of anxiety in ecstatic love caused by Krishna's awkward position. Thoughtfulness. In the Vaishaka Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, a devotee states that though in some of the 18 Puranas, the process of glorifying Lord Vishnu is not mentioned and the glorifying of some demigod is offered, such glorification must be continued for millions of years. For when one studies the Puranas very scrutinizingly, he can see that ultimately Lord Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. This is an instance of ecstatic love developed out of thoughtfulness. In the 10th canto, 60th chapter, verse 39 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an account of Rukmini Devi writing a letter to Krishna requesting him to kidnap her before her marriage to another person. At that time, the specific attachment of Rukmini for Krishna was expressed by Rukmini as follows: My dear Lord Krishna, your transcendental glories are chanted by great sages who are free from material contamination, and in exchange for such glorification, you are so kind that you freely distribute yourself to such devotees. As one can elevate oneself simply by your grace, so also your direction alone one may be lost all benedictions all benedictions under the influence of eternal time. Therefore, I have selected your lordship as my husband. Brushing aside personalities like Brahma and Indra, not to mention others, Rukmini enhanced her love for Krishna simply by thinking of him. This is an instance of thoughtfulness in ecstatic love. Endurance. When a person is fully satisfied due to attaining knowledge, transcending all distress, or achieving his desired goal of life in transcendental devotional service to God, his state of endurance or steady mindedness is called dhriti. At this stage, one is not perturbed by any amount of loss, nor does anything appear to be unachieved by him. According to the opinion of Bhartrhari, a learned scholar, when a person is elevated to this state of endurance, he thinks as follows: I do not wish to be a highly posted government servant. I shall prefer to remain naked without proper garments. I shall prefer to lie down on the ground without any mattress. And despite all these disadvantages, I shall refuse to serve anyone, even the government. In other words, when one is in ecstatic love with the personality of the Godhead, he can endure any kind of disadvantages calculated under the material concept of life. Nanda Maharaja, the father of Krishna, used to think, in my pasturing ground, the goddess of fortune is personally present, and I possess more than 10,100,000 cows, which loiter here and there. And above all, I have a son like Krishna who is such a powerful, wonderful worker. Therefore, even though I am a householder, I am feeling so satisfied. This is an instance of mental endurance resulting from the absence of all distress. In another instance, a devotee says, I am always swimming in the nectarian ocean of the pastimes of the personality of Godhead, and as such, I have no more attraction for religious rituals, economic development, sense gratification, or even the ultimate salvation of merging into the existence of Brahman. This is an instance of the mind's endurance due to achieving the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world is absorption in Krishna consciousness, happiness. It is described in the Vishnu Purana
Hare,
that when
Hare Krishna, Sautanya.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah,
Hare
somebody.
Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Vaishnavi, you can continue. Hare Krishna, Vaishnavi, are you there?
Yes, yes, Mataji. Actually, my mic wasn't working. That's why.
Oh,
I'll continue. From happiness, right?
yes.
It is described in the Vishnu Purana that when Akrura came to take Krishna and Balarama to Mathura, just by seeing their faces, he became so cheerful that all over his body there were symptoms of ecstatic love. This state is called happiness. It is stated in the 10th canto, 33rd chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Upon seeing that Krishna's arm was placed on her shoulder, One of the gopis engaged in the rasa dance became so ecstatically happy that she kissed Krishna on his cheek. This is an instance of feeling happiness because of achieving a desired goal. Eagerness. In the 10th canto, 71st chapter, verse 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, when Krishna first came from his kingdom Dwarka to Indraprastha, the young females of the city became so eager to see him that even at night, when they were all lying down with their husbands, they could not restrain their eagerness, even though they were not properly dressed and although their hair was loose and there were many household duties to perform, they still gave up everything and immediately went into the streets to see Krishna. This is an instance of eagerness in ecstatic love. Indraprastha is the present day Delhi. In his book Savavali, Sri Raghunatha Das Goswami has prayed for the mercy of Radharani, who was so captivated by the flute vibrations of Krishna that she immediately asked information of his whereabouts from residents of Vrindavan forest. Upon his upon first seeing Krishna, she was filled with such ecstatic love and pleasure that she began to scratch her ears. The damsels of Raja and Radharani were very expert in talking cunningly. So as soon as they saw Krishna, they began the talkings, and Krishna pretending to go for some flowers for them, immediately left that place and entered into a mountain cave. This is another instance of eager loving exchanges on the parts of both gopis and Krishna. Violence. When Krishna was fighting with Kalia's snake, by dancing on his head, Kalia bit Krishna on his leg. At that time, Garuda became infuriated and began to murmur. Krishna is so powerful that simply by his thundering voice, the wives of Kalia have had miscarriages. Because my lord has been insulted by this snake, I wish to devour him immediately. But I cannot do so in the presence of my lord, because he may become angry with me. This is an instance of eagerness to act in ecstatic love as a result of dishonor to Krishna. When Shishupala objected to worship Krishna in Rajasuya arena at a sacrifice organized by Maharaja Yudhishthir, Sahadeva, the younger brother of Arjuna, said, a person who cannot tolerate the worship of Krishna is my enemy and is possessed of a demonic nature. Therefore, I wish to strike my left foot upon his broad head, just to punish him more strongly than the wand of Yamaraja. Then Baladeva began to lament like this: O all auspiciousness to Lord Krishna! I am so surprised to see that the condemned descendants of the Kuru dynasty, who so unlawfully occupied the throne of the Kuru kingdom, and are criticizing Krishna with diplomatic devices. Oh, this is intolerable. This is another instance of eagerness caused by dishonor to Krishna, haughtiness resulting in dishonorable words. Can you scroll? Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah. In the Vidigdha Mahadava Jatila, the mother-in-law of Radharani began to criticize Krishna in this way. Krishna, you are standing here, and Radharani, who has been just married to my son, is also standing here. Now I know both of you very well. So why should I not be very anxious to protect my daughter-in-law from your dancing eyes? This is an instance of dishonorable words used to indirectly criticize Krishna. Similarly, some of the gopis once began to address Krishna with these dishonorable words. My dear Krishna, you are first-class thief. So please leave this place immediately. We know you love Chandravali more than us, but there is no use in praising her in our presence. Kindly do not contaminate the name of Radharani in this place. This is another instance of dishonorable words cast upon Krishna in ecstatic love. There is another statement in the 10th canto, 31st chapter, verse 16 of Srimad Bhagavatam. When all the gopis came out of their house to meet Krishna in the Vrindavana forest, Krishna refused to accept them and asked them to go home, giving them some moral instructions. At that time, the gopis spoke as follows: Dear Krishna, there is extreme distress in being out of your presence, and there is extreme happiness simply in seeing you. Therefore, we have all left our husbands, relatives, brothers, and friends, and have simply come to you. Being captivated by the voice of your transcendental flute, O infallible one, you had better know the reason for our coming here. In plain words, we are here simply because we have been captivated by the sweet sound of your flute. We all, we are all beautiful girls, and you are so foolish that you are rejecting our association. We do not know anyone other than yourself who would miss this opportunity to associate with young girls in the dead of night. This, this is another instance of indirect insults used against Krishna in ecstatic love. Envy. In the Padyavali, one of the friends of Radharani once addressed her thus: My dear friend, please do not be puffed up, because Krishna has decorated your forehead with his own hands. It may be that Krishna is yet attracted by some other beautiful girl. I see that the decoration of your forehead is very nicely made, and so it appears that Krishna was not too disturbed in painting it. Otherwise, he could not have painted such exact lines. This is an instance of envy caused by Radha's good fortune. In the 10th canto, 13th chapter, verse 30 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the following statement. When the gopis were searching for Krishna and Radha after the rasa dance, they thus began to speak among themselves. We have seen the footprints of Krishna and Radha on the grounds of Vrindavan, and they are giving us great pain. Because although Krishna is everything to us, the girl is so cunning that she has taken him away alone and is enjoying his kissing without sharing him with us. This is another instance of envy of the good fortune of Srimati Radharani. Sometimes, when the cowherd boys used to play in the forest of Vrindavana Krishna would play on one side and Balarama would play on another. There would be competition and mock fight between the two parties. And when Krishna's party was defeated by Balarama, the boys would say, if Balarama's party remains victorious, then who in the world can be weaker than them ourselves? This is another instance of envy in ecstatic love. Impudence. In the 10th canto, 52nd chapter, verse 41 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Rukmini addresses a letter to Krishna as follows: My dear unconquerable Krishna, my marriage day is fixed for tomorrow. I request that you come to the city of Vidarbha without advertising yourself. Then have your soldiers and commanders suddenly surrounded and defeat all the strength of the king of Magadha, and by thus adopting the methods of the demon, please kidnap and marry me. According to the Vedic system, there are 8 kinds of marriage. One of them is Rakshas Vivaha. Rakshas Vivaha refers to kidnapping a girl and marrying her by force. This is considered to be a demoniac method. When, when Rukmini was going to be married to Shishupala by the choice of her elder brother, she wrote the above letter to Krishna requesting him to kidnap her. This is the instance of impudence in ecstatic love for Krishna. One of the gopis said, May Krishna's sweet flute be washed away by the waves of the Yamuna and let it fall into the ocean. The sweet sound of that flute is so impudent that it makes us lose the composure before our superiors. Dizziness. Every evening at sunset, Krishna used to return from the pasturing grounds where he herded cows. Sometimes when Mother Yashoda could not hear the sweet vibrations of his flute, she would become very anxious, and because of this, she would feel dizzy. Thus, dizziness caused by anxiety and ecstatic love for Krishna is also possible. When Yashoda had tied up Krishna one time, she began to think, Krishna's body is so soft and delicate. How could I have tied him with rope? Thinking this, her brain became puzzled and she felt dizziness. The gopis, who advised by their superiors to bolt the doors at night, but were but they were so carefree that they did not carry out these orders very rigidly. Sometimes, by thinking of Krishna, they became so confident of being out of all danger that they would lie down at night in the courtyards of their house. This is an instance of dizziness in ecstatic love due to natural affection for Krishna. It may be questioned why devotees of Krishna should be attacked by dizziness, which is usually considered a sign of mode of ignorance. To answer this question, Sri Jiva Goswami has said that the devotees of Lord Krishna are always transcendental to all the modes of material nature. When they feel dizziness or go to sleep, they are not considered to be sleeping under the modes of nature, but are accepted as being in the trance of devotional service. There is an authoritative statement in the Garuda Purana about mystic yogis who are under the direct shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In all three stages of their consciousness, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, the devotees are absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in their complete absorption in thought of Krishna, they do not sleep. Sleepiness. Once, Lord Baldeva began to talk in his sleep as follows: O lotus-eyed Krishna, your childhood adventures are manifest simply according to your own will. Therefore, please immediately dispose the stubborn pride of this Kala serpent. By saying this, Lord Baladeva astonished the assembly of the Yadus and made them laugh for some time. Then, yawning so hard as to make ripples on his abdomen, Lord Baladeva, the bearer of the plough, returned to his deep sleep. This is an instance of sleepiness in ecstatic love. Alertness. A devotee once stated, I have already conquered the mode of ignorance, and I am now on the platform of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, I shall be engaged only in searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is an instance of alertness in ecstatic love. Transcendental alertness is possible when the illusionary condition is completely overcome. At that stage, when in contact with any reaction with material elements such as sound, smell, touch, or taste, the devotee realizes the transcendental presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this condition, the ecstatic symptoms, example standing of the hair on the body, rolling of eyeballs, and getting up from sleep are persistently visible. When Srimati Radharani first saw Krishna, she suddenly became conscious of all transcendental happiness and the functions of her different limbs were stunned. When Lalita, her constant companion, whispered into her ears the holy name of Krishna, Radharani immediately opened her eyes wide. This is an instance of alertness caused by hearing the sound of Krishna's name. One day, in the joking mood, Krishna informed Radharani, My dear Radharani, I am going to give up your company. Upon saying this, he immediately disappeared, and because of this, Radharani became so afflicted that the hue of her body changed, and she immediately fell down upon the ground of Vrindavana. She had practically stopped breathing, but when she smelled the flavor of the flowers on the ground, she awoke in ecstasy and got up. This is an instance of transcendental alertness caused by smelling. When Krishna was touching the body of one gopi, the gopi addressed her companion thus: My dear friend, whose hand is this touching my body? I have I had become very afraid after seeing the dark forest on the banks of Yamuna, but suddenly the touch of this hand has saved me from hysterical fits. This is an instance of alertness caused by touching. One of the gopis informed Krishna, My dear Krishna, when you disappeared from the arena of the Rasa dance, our most dear friend Radharani immediately fell on the ground and lost consciousness. But after this, when I offered her some of your chewed betel nut remnants, she immediately returned to consciousness with jubilant symptoms in her body. This is an instance of alertness caused by tasting. One night, Srimati Radharani was talking in her dreams. My dear Krishna, she said, please do not play any more jokes on me. Please stop. And please don't touch my garments either. Otherwise, I shall inform the elderly persons and I shall disclose all of your naughty behavior. While she was talking like this in a dream, she suddenly awoke and saw some of her superiors standing before her. Thus Radharani became ashamed and bowed her head. This is an instance of alertness in awakening from sleep. There is another instance of this. A messenger of Krishna came to Srimati Radharani while she was sleeping and Radharani immediately awakened. Similarly, when Krishna began to blow on his flute the night, all the gopis, the beautiful daughters of the cowherd men, immediately got up from their sleep. There is very beautiful comparison made in this connection. The lotus flower is sometimes surrounded with white swans and sometimes is surrounded with black wasps who are collecting its honey. When there is thundering in the sky, the swans go away, but the wasps stay to enjoy the lotus flower. The gopis sleeping condition is compared with the white swans, and the sound of Krishna's flute is compared to the black wasp. When Krishna's flute sounded, the white swans, which represent the sleeping conditions of the gopis, were immediately vanquished, and the black wasps, sound of flute, began to enjoy the lotus flower of the gopis' beauty. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Quite lengthy chapters, but all are self-explanatory. No, any doubts in this reading session?
No, Mataji.
Okay, fine. Anybody is going to make any presentation tomorrow?
Mataji, for what?
Presentations.
Oh, the Bhagavad Gita questions presentation. Okay.
No? Okay, fine. Okay, we'll conclude by saying the Narsimati. Who is going to say today?
Mataji, can I say?
Anyone, anyone.
Can I say Mataji?
Decide among yourself.
Can I say Mataji?
Okay.
Yes, Mataji. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayine Hiranyakashipo Vaksha Shilatanka Nakalaye Ito Narsimho Parato Narsimho Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimho Bahye Narsimho Hridaye Narsimho Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prabhade Tava Karakamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavatita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, co-host and participant, for your active participation. See you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.